going to talk about double widowhood or dual widowhood. Dual widowhood is a term that I coined rather than double, because in dual widowhood I do the same thing identically to both the hens and the cock. You know, both of them are treated identically the same way. But let me tell you what brought me to this and give you a little background. In 1972, Tommy Mooneyham in Dallas, who a lot of you know, started flying widowhood. Tommy just had a small group of pigeons, about 12 cocks, and flew very good. Beat me. I didn't like it. And so I said, heck, if that works, I'm going to do it. So I built a loft and flew widowhood the next year. The only thing is, I realized this was a classical widowhood. But at the time, that my best racing pigeons were my hens. My best racing pigeons those years were my hens. There was no doubt I had far more good hens, or better hens, than I did cocks. I said, well, what am I going to do with my good hens? So I took the old loft and flew the hens on a celibate system. Some of you, Terry Wolf came over and sang during that time, and John Ware, a few guys came over. But anyway, I flew the hens on a celibate system. And celibate is just away from a mate. They didn't have a mate. They were never mated up prior to the races. These were not the mates to the widowhood cocks. The widowhood cocks mates were the widowhood hens. They never raced. They never were turned out. And so I created this loft to fly the hens because I just felt like I didn't have the confidence to not race my hens. My hens were my best birds at the time. I had some good cocks, but nothing like I had in the hens at this time. And I thought, well, you know, I don't put all my eggs in one basket. So then some problems developed. I couldn't turn the hens out to exercise during the season. Why? Why couldn't I turn them out? Terry was there. They flew over to the widowhood loft. They'd land on that widowhood loft and drive those cocks crazy. So if I turned them out, I was in trouble. They drove the cocks crazy. So I decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to train them. I'm just going to train them once a day, feed them once a day. So what I did is, basically I was working nights, I was off daytime, I was going to Eastfield College over at the time, taking a couple courses in the morning. I got out of school about noon, come home, catch the hens up, run them up 20 miles, leave feed in their trough. When they come home, there was feed available for them for 30 minutes. I picked the feed up after 30 minutes, and that was it. No more than that. A little more than that, but that was the most of it. That season I won 13 races. Cocks won 3, the hens won 10. At one point in the season, I was flying in 2 clubs, and we divided the entry. I was first and second average speed in the combine, splitting my team in half. The hens were first, the cocks were second. And the hens got better, and better, and better. But they were my best pigeons that year. Now, I'm not saying that hens are better than cocks. I'm saying at that point in my career, I had far superior hens in my loft than I did cocks on my race team. And here's what I did to motivate them. Very simple. I took a wire show cage, very similar to the show cage over here, a piece of one, set it right in the center of the loft, and put an old cock in there, number 1370, 65. I still remember him. He was a good one. Put 1370 in there, and he just lay in there and call those hens up one side and down the other. And they'd play king of the hill. Well, who get the closest and knock the other one off? Want to get on top of the cage, the other one knock the other one off. And they decide who could get the closest to that cock. And I usually leave that cock in there for 2 to 3 hours. Normally I would put the cock in there when I came home from school at noon. Instead of training that day, I'd put the cock in. Sometimes I may give them a short toss, let them come in and eat and find the cock in the pen waiting on them. It was beneficial. It seemed to excite them. It seemed to excite the hens. It seemed to work. One of the best races I ever flew in my life was that year. Was from Los Alamos, Colorado, 531 miles, 12 hours and 42 minutes on the wing. I get 3 on the drop. It was only 4 day birds. The combine had 3 on the drop. And, you know, they were superior health, superior form. They just were, but they were very, very good pigeons. I mean, they didn't back into this. This system didn't make them win. This system made them consistent winners.
You had very good fall harder that year, too.
Yes, I did. That was the next year. That was the next year. And as Terry's talking about on 400, the next year, I had a hen come in, could have won the combine. but she flew over to the Widowhood loft. The other lofts. And I'm so used to, every time they fly that Widowhood, if I chunk a rock at them, right? So when she saw me, she goes back up and makes a circle. I just stood there for a second. She was trapped right in there and wanted to calm my knees, but I scared her off. But it still had, what, 8 or 9 birds in 10 minutes?
Yeah, they were coming in the party.
Looked like a training toss.
5 mile an hour headwind.
Yeah, into a headwind. You know, just bam, 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 bam. I flew that system 2 years. 2 years in a row with the hens and the cocks. Hens won 8 races the second year. I let the hens, the first year the hens never raised a baby. Never had eggs and never were mated. After the races, I raised a youngster. The next year I decided I wanted to get some early youngsters to race from these hens. And so I paired them up and tucked around the youngsters and then separated them. Basically did the same concept. I saw very little difference in the system. My performance level wasn't quite as high, but it was awful high. I won 8 races, and we had a couple screwy races in the year that I was heavy on with birds, and it knocked it down. I don't think if it hadn't been for that, the level would have been as consistent. It wasn't, the level wasn't a result of a failure in the system. It was a tougher season, just took a little more wear and tear on the pigeons. So that got me into not exercising birds and only training. Something else happened that year. I learned how to observe pigeons. And observation is probably the single most important thing in raising pigeons, is observing. If you don't have the ability to observe what's happening in the loft, you can never pick a pool bird. You'll leave the race winner at home. You'll ship a bird that has no business going, and you'll beat yourself. There's nobody in this room that can affect me during a race season. Only I can affect myself. Only I can screw up. I can feel the pressure. Some of my good friends over here feel the pressure of training. They got to go down the road. A good friend right here feels the pressure of training. He's got to train. Donnie Quinn's training 10 days a week. I'm going to train. You feel that pressure that guy's got an edge on you. He has nothing to do with you. You're the controller of your own destiny, and you're not affected by what somebody else does. And if you do your job, and you do it very well, and you have quality animals, you keep them healthy like Dr. Mark said, you're going to win your share of races. And if you learn how to motivate, you're going to win his share of races. And that's what the game's all about. It's taking more than your share. Okay, process of evolution. I moved from that loft location, got married, things happened, moved, and so I started flying then a double Widowhood system the next few years. A standard double Widowhood system, where basically the cocks remained in the nest boxes, the hens were pulled away, they both raced home to the box to each other. A normal, what you hear in the way of a Widowhood system now to be. Had periodic success, had good races, fine. But I moved again and again. Moved to Oklahoma 7.5 years, about 7 years ago this month. Moved to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City, and I had a good friend that had given me some ideas, a couple of good friends. Ostrom Zedermanis is one, a guy named Luis Lopez. They used to do little tricks. Warren Glover's another one. But they even forget what they did. You know, they don't remember what they did years ago. But what they would do is they'd pull the bird out of the loft for a couple days before they ship him, isolate him, and then let him come home for just a minute or two and then ship him to the race. On a natural system, they do things like this. And then elevate a key pigeon, get him psyched up, and make him perform. I kept remembering those things. The other thing is, how many times have you seen a guy take a pigeon, put him in the stock loft, 3 weeks into the races, he's not doing worth a darn, he goes, gets it out, gives it 10 training tosses, and ships to a race, and does pretty well. Bobby Robson, a guy in our town, did it last year. Took a real good hen, did the same thing. She scored twice in a row. He lost her the third time, pushed her maybe a little too hard, but, you know, she did it. She was capable. Why? She was so happy to get back into her own environment, number one. She was a talented pigeon. She was an athlete. She had the ability. And she wanted to come home. She could do it. So he did it. It worked. Well, all these things worked on me when I moved. I thought, I've got to build new lofts. Here I moved. I got to do things. And so I need to try something different. I've been thinking about this. If I hadn't never moved, I'm sure I never would have done this. And I built the loft on the blackboard here. And I passed a little sheet out here, kind of designed the loft. Matter of fact, Bobby Robertson built the loft. Basically, a real simple loft, 8 by 16. 8 by 16 construction-wise is easy to make. Material lays out fine. And this is a loft. 8 by 16, 8 foot in the center, 4 foot on each end. There's a 16 foot, 8 foot deep. 3 compartments. Solid wall partitions between the compartments. Solid walls. They cannot see between the compartments. Avery's on both ends, if you so choose. It's optional, shall we say. At least for the hens, I prefer it. Purchase, like a young bird pen here, I like box purchase for the cocks. For the hens, I like a V perch. Box purchase encourages hens sometimes to mate together. A V perch, they can't sit by each other. They don't get so chummy, and, you know. So this was the loft. Flew this in 82. 83 old birds. I moved to Oklahoma in 82. 83 old birds the first year I flew this system. I had nothing but lay hatch yearlings, and I say lay hatch, they were May hatches from the year before. And these birds proceeded to win champion loft, average speed, champion bird in the combine. First year I flew them on the system. Now, let me tell you the premise of the system. Real simple. We're going to take the birds, we're going to pair them up 8 to 10 weeks before the races. We'll let them go down on eggs and youngsters. That's optional. I don't care if you let them raise eggs. I don't care, if you let them hatch eggs. I don't care if you let them raise one youngster. I don't care if you let them raise 2 youngsters. This is up to you. What we want to do is to create an attachment to these boxes. We want this to become home. We want this to become home. We want to create that atmosphere. So whatever it takes to create that atmosphere, you need to do. Sometimes a bird gets killed and a mate, so you don't have a mate. But still, you want that to be the home, the center compartment, all the activity goes on. Then, just prior to, as we go into the first race, we'll separate and we'll go on the system. Now let me say this, it's very important. It's mandatory that you keep your birds healthy and you keep them in good condition. And what I mean good condition is they must loft fly. Nobody's here has birds that loft fly better than me. Nobody. You may have them fly as good, but you won't have them fly better. Is that right? You come to my house, they're up flying. They're up flying. They love to fly, but they're healthy. I follow Dr. Marsh's program. I give them a lot of open loft. You can't always do that here. I understand that with the hawk problem. But they need to be exercised. And prior to the first race, they need to be in some sort of form. They need to be somewhat ready to go to that first race. Now, how are we going to get them ready? We're going to train them if we can't exercise them. How much you train is directly related to the amount of exercise the birds have had. If your birds are out flying 2 and 3 hours a day like mine, they don't need much training. They don't need it. They're in good shape. I haven't had a bird that had a call says, young birds, if you want to fly me a 100-mile race tomorrow, I got some birds ready to go. Because they're flying 3 hours a day. They don't have any trouble. They can fly a 100-mile race tomorrow. You know, any pigeon can fly 4 or 5 hours. Any pigeon can fly 6 hours with no training. You believe that? Bird can fly 6 hours with no training. How? Easy. Give me a cat. I put a cat in your loft, he'll fly 6 hours that day with no training. We may get 15 hours out of him with no training. But he can't do it the next day, you see. This is what conditioning is. Condition gives the bird the ability to recuperate from the hard work and be ready to fly again. So we can psych him up one time, get him to do anything. But he may not have nothing left in him to psych him up the second time, or physically get him to work the second time. So anyway, basically my system at this point is, since my birds fly so well, they get anywhere from 10 to 20 tosses prior to the first race. And what I'm looking for is for the pigeons to give me response to my training. I go out, drop the basket, they take off, 1 circle, 2 circles, then head home, and they make good time coming home, right? The birds are working well to the loft. They understand the training, they understand how to come home. You know, all those obstacles are behind us, it's old birds, and the training is good. Sometimes the first couple tosses takes them an hour. They're not ready if they haven't been trained. But we want to get them to the point that the training is coming easy. That they're doing 30 miles in 35, 45 minutes. That's what we want. When they're doing that, then they're ready. If they're exercising. Now they're still together, they're made up, they're on age, they're on youngsters, they're on one youngster, whatever method you want to use. Well, coming up to the first race, I generally don't go on the system until the week after the first race. We fly a 10 to 11 a week season, and I have problems, not with the birds going off form, I have a problem with hens wanting to mate with each other, and we'll discuss that later. And the longer I can keep them together, the less likely I will have hens wanting to pair up with each other as we get into the long races. So that's the reason I delay it. And at the 100-mile race, it's only going to fly 3 hours. 3 hours all we're going to be on the wing. 2 is tailwind. It's a headwind. 3 hours and 15 minutes. They ain't going to be out long. So the 100-mile race on Widowhood, whether I'm on Widowhood or not, is not probably going to make me win it or lose it per se. I just want to be real close. Now, I'm going to talk 4 or 5 of my favorite pigeons into winning this 100-mile race. I'm going to give them a little pep talk. How am I going to give them a pep talk? I'm not going to go in there and throw a chair across the room, in the locker room. I'm going to do something about as dramatic. I'm going to go into this nest box, and starting about Wednesday, I'm going to give this hen an egg every day. She has 2, now she's got 3, now she's got 4. And Thursday, her mate disappeared. The sucker went out and got drunk and didn't come home. And left her with the single parenting responsibilities, no child support, and she's got the responsibility of taking care of these cotton pickers. So, she knows it. And somebody keeps giving her another egg, and she's trying to cover these things and eat, and she don't know what's going on, but she's a good pigeon. And she's a good mother, and it's important to be a good mother. It's going to be very important that she comes home. Then just Friday when I go to ship, I'll be darned if some neighborhood kid, some squeaker, don't get up in that box and give her a problem. I don't know how he gets up there, and I just maybe put him up there like this, and she's got that youngster pecking her, wanting her to feed him, and she thinks he wants to break her bags. So she's all keyed up. Well, she'll fly through this blackboard and come back to the room. So I talk her into winning the first race. Then I take about Wednesday of that week, I pull away half of the mates. I pull away some of the cocks, some of the hens. We create that single parenting responsibility. We create the anticipation of wanting to come back to make sure everything's good, but they're not on my system yet. We're just creating a 3 or 4 day cycle and taking advantage of these good pigeons. We'll make them willing to hurt, take the pain to put out. But they're in pretty good shape. They're ready to do it. And I always got 1 or 2 out of the 7 or 8 I fool with that will give me a super race that first week. And I'm really not ready for the race. I'm not quite ready. But they don't know. So, right after the first race, the birds come in, we fly double races in Oklahoma City. I try not to send mates on the same race. I don't see a major problem with it, but I basically try to send mates on opposite races, so they're not released at the same time. When they come home, I'm going to immediately separate them. I'm going to take the hens and put all the hens over here, take the cocks and put all the cocks over here. Shut the door, we got a solid partition that no longer can get back into here. If there's youngsters in the loft, if we got youngsters that need to be weaned, I put half of them on the floor over here, half of them on the floor over here. Let them feed them out. I weaned my youngsters about 21 days now. Surprising how well they do. You saw the slide I just showed you earlier. They convinced me after that trip they could do it. It's amazing. Almost the earlier you wean them, the better they respond. But anyway, so I pull those youngsters away. But what's funny is I leave the eggs in the nest boxes. If I had a little tiny youngster that I may have to destroy or can't handle for something that hatched accidentally, I try not to have that. If I can't put it under a feeder somewhere and I have to destroy it, I destroy it. I have no choice. But I separate and everybody goes on the system. That's Saturday. We ship Friday nights. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to teach these birds, and I'm not teaching them. Let me take that back. You don't have to teach somebody to want something. What they do is they want to go back in here. I'm going to give them that opportunity to go back in there. And when do they have that opportunity? When they go out, when they go on training. I never exercise these pigeons anymore. Why don't I exercise? Because they won't. If I turn them out and they don't want to come back in here, they don't understand what I'm teaching. They're dummies. Might as well get rid of them. Just like those Widowhood hens I had, those celibate hens. When I turned them out, over that cock cloth. Well, when I turn these out, they should want to go right in here immediately. And if they don't want to go right in here immediately, something ain't happening right. They're not settled in. Something's wrong. Something's astray. Something's amiss. So I can't exercise. But what happens is they soon learn that when they get outside, they can go into here. The trap's here. There's a window enter here. They fly through. They have no trouble going in here. And they know, see, in their mind, they don't know that I'm controlling. All they know is, hey, I got out. Now I can go back home. What happens when you get a stray pigeon? Or you got bought a prisoner from me and you have 2 weeks and gets out, it's going to try to come home. Well, this bird wants to go back to his nest. You know, and it escaped on the training toss and went back home. Now, there's also something here that happens. The cocks are very territorial animals. You saw some pictures earlier of the Widowhood cocks and how territorial, how possessive they are. That's an important trait because we want to take advantage of this later. I'm a manipulator, and I like to have more to manipulate. So these cocks, they're worried that their buddy is fooling around with their girlfriend or their wife. So they want to get back there and make sure that he ain't. They want to get back there and make sure nobody's stuck over his nest box. You saw in the video I was showing earlier, a cock got in the wrong nest box. What happened? Boom, the other one went up there and ran him out, right? It's instinctive. They want to protect that territory. I started to call this territorial Widowhood, but I didn't. So these cocks want to protect that territory. And it's amazing. I got a little Sputnik trap. It's about this big, about 24 inches long and 8 inches wide, and 8 cocks can hit the board at the same time. Now, could I teach them to do that? Heck no. But they're worried the other guy's getting in there. I mean, they're just, boom, let's get in there. And so that mental incentive to make sure the wrong guy don't get in their box. Also, some of these hens still think that little baby I was telling you about is in there hungry. So I just happen to make sure that when she does get out, the little baby's still in there hungry. You know what? He ain't growing anything in a week. He's the same size he was a week ago. If she fed him, he might have grown. Of course, I got her from another pair and put him. But I want to make him happy. Some of those hens go right back and start sitting on those eggs. The cocks won't. Forget that. The hens will. They're better mothers. They're better. The mother maternal instinct's stronger in females. We know that as a general rule. The male, he's more concerned about what he owns than what he's got. He wants to make sure nobody gets it away from him. They get something new. So anyway, here's the first week. We're in week 1. Next week, we're flying 200 miles. I want these birds to understand that when they're released from the training basket, they get to go home. Get to go to the nest box. So I'm going to take them out 2 or 3 times this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't care. 25, 30 miles. The birds are in decent shape. Up until this point, they had been exercised good. I got them in pretty good shape. I got them ready. Okay. I'm going to take them out 3 times this first week. I don't care if you take them out 4 times. I don't care. Whatever you think they need, all right? You're going to come home. I'm going to go down the road, and I'm going to go 20 miles. I'm going to stop and turn these hens out first. Turn the hens out. I'm going to drive 3 miles farther and turn the cocks out. Now, I'll tell you something. It's amazing. On this system, the cocks will make better speed on training tosses than hens. Usually 4 to 5 minutes, isn't that right there? It's unbelievable. You will not believe it, but the cocks will make better speed on the training tosses than the hens. Always. Now on the races, it doesn't seem to exist, but I guarantee on the training tosses it does. They'll make better speed. So that's why I take the cocks farther away. Then I drive home as fast as I can. As soon as I get there, if I'm fortunate enough to be them both home, fine, I wait there, the hens come in, they go in, I give them a minute and a half, and then I open this door and I run them all back over here and shut the deal. Cocks come in, give them a minute and a half, run them back over here and shut the deal. They got a little look at it, and that was it. If the hens and cocks saw each other, fine. I don't care. They were only in there long enough for me to go in there and separate. Okay? That's all I gave them that week. Tricks of the trade. If we're flying a 200-mile race, if we're flying a race, distance has nothing to do with it. It's time on the wing. 200 miles into headwind is a lot tougher than 300 miles into tailwind. A lot tougher. If we're flying 6 hours or less, and it's a clean race, there's not rain, there's not storms. I don't care if it's headwind or tailwind, but if it's 6 hours or less on the wing, I'm going to give them a short toss the night of shipping. I'm going to key them up a little extra. I'm going to let them turn the hens loose. And how short? Around the corner, half a block, a mile, I don't care. What's the object? To go back in there and find something, go back in there and find something, both of them. And if they do not fire right into this pen, if they sit on top of that roof, I don't ship them. They're not keyed up. They don't, their harem scare them. Sometimes you get some yearlings that are that way for a week or two into the race. Then they settle down. But anyway, that tells me who to pull. Tells me who to bet against you, who to ship, who to lead home. I mean, how'd you like to walk in there and just say, those 10 go and these 10 don't get to go? You knew something. They told you. On a short race, that's what I do. Or a quick race, not short race, 6 hours or less. If it's over 6 hours, it don't seem to make any difference. Let's talk a little more endurance requirement, a little more determination, a little more ability. This little sight bit doesn't seem to give you any benefit. Matter of fact, when it's over 8 hours, they say it might hurt you. It might be too active in the crate. They're going to need some help to get by 8 hours. Any pigeon can fly 6 hours. 50% of the pigeons can fly 8 hours. You lose 10% every hour after that. They're just not physically capable enough, fit enough to stay in the wing every hour. When you go for 13, 14 hours, you're down to 10 to 15% that's capable of flying. So, that's week 2. We flew the 200, we got a good race, we won it, we closed, we put a lot of birds quickly right up top. They come very quick. What am I going to do? Very important. Very important. It's the first week of our actual system, the first reward period. They come in, I'm going to give them the rest of the brigade together. We get a holiday, a honeymoon. Right? I got a honeymoon going on here. Happy to see each other. Now, what do you say happens if this cock comes in and his hen's not there? There's another one there, he seems just as happy. Believe me, he seems just as happy. Now, later, when his other one comes in, he's more happy. But it works. You give him the rest of the day to reestablish the normal loft cycle. The hen with his regular mate back in their box. And the most important thing is we open the window and we give them open loft and we give them a bath. When an animal works hard, you've got to let it come down. When you're out there racing a horse, what do they do after it runs? They loosen it back up. Same thing with these. You've got to. The full-bodied hens, if you don't do it, they'll get muscle bound on you. I promise you. If they fly the hard race, go in and trap, you shut the windows and never get out again. So you go train them on Wednesday. But when you go out there on Wednesday and drop the crate, they may not come out of it because they're muscle bound. They need that exercise. Terry, do you have a question?
What do you do with the birds that didn't go to the race?
Okay, good question. The birds that don't go to the race need to toss Saturday morning. I'd like to give them 2 hours. An hour and a half will do. The key is everybody now needs to be treated the same. We're now on a 7-day cycle. Every Saturday, everybody needs to go somewhere and come home. Okay? He needs to go somewhere and come home. Now, a lot of things happen. A lot of other things happen. You'll start seeing your best pigeons create that edge. What's the key to a successful season? To a really top season? 5 good birds, 3 good birds. You give me 3 outstanding pigeons